Hey, good afternoon everyone. It is a bright, beautiful, sunny day here at the end of May, and it's time to think about irrigation needs for these plants. And so with that, Thomas Hill and Gerard both speak very much, and also Friar Henry, speaks about the gourds and the cucumbers' need and love for abundant moisture. So here's a little passage from Gardener's Labyrinth. The seeds, for the most part, appear by the 6th or 7th day after sowing, being sufficiently moistened with stores of water that space and time. So talking about how when you initially put in the seeds, they have all that they need, and so they don't really need an additional water. Then, by a pot or pots of water dropping continually down with a list of wool cloth hanging forth of the mouth of the pot, which manner of watering is named filtering. This kind of watering is one of the chiefest matters required in that plants prosper and come speedily forward through the much moisture in which they mightily enjoy. So, with that, let's give them as much moisture as they can enjoy. And with that, we're going to set up this technique known as filtering that Gerard, or at least Hill, calls filtering. Gerard also speaks abundantly of this detail and this method in much more detail than Gerard. He has like 2 paragraphs on it. And the basic principle is that we're going to be doing this through capillary action, and it's a technique that we still use today with the wicking or... I just saw my first cucumber beetle larval. Ugh. Evil little creatures, you're not going to get a foothold here. Oh, yes, go away. So anyway, watering. I have been watering these by hand so far, but we're going to need some sort of more mechanized method, and this is perfect for that. And so with that, we're going to use these woolen strips of cloth to wick or to use capillary motion, the principles of capillary action to move the water from the pot next to the plant itself. And this is great because you can get it exactly where you want, and you're also not going to be moistening the leaves of the plant, which is a really common method to get powdery mildew on your plant. So this is actually perfect for gourds and cucumbers. They kind of knew what they were talking about. So with that, I did a quick test, and something about this wide, which is about 2 inches wide, and this is just pure wool. It's slightly felted, but it's just mostly just pure wool. Well, it is pure wool, just slightly felted. Anyway, this will wick about 3/4 cup an hour, which is a really nice steady rate. A lot of our drip emitters are sitting at half a gallon to 1 gallon an hour, so this is actually quite faster than that. But it should work well. So, I'm going to put one end into the pot and tuck the other end up against the stems of the plants. And although Till doesn't mention this, Gerard talks about putting the pot at a slight angle. I don't know if that's really necessary because we are dealing with the wicking principle. So, alright, so I have the fabric going right underneath the plants here. And that should do it. There's a few extra pieces here. Get those out of the way. And just fill up the pot. Another great thing about this solution, right, is they're also very specific about not using water straight from your well when watering your gourd plants. And by sitting in this pot, it will warm up with the sun a little bit, and so you're not having to worry about temperature shock as much. So, alright, we'll see what happens. Yeah, well, I can already tell that I am not doing this right. The dripping of the water is right where the fabric first bends. So I'm going to need to readjust my pot of water. And this is probably why Gerard speaks of tipping the pot, so you can get a better angle there. Alright, let's try that again. I'm going to stretch it out further. Oops. And like with all wicks, I want to make sure that it's at the bottom of the pot so it can make use of all of that water. Alright. And I think that should work well. And while we're at it, I'm just going to give these others more moisture. Make sure they stay nice and moist. Alright, very cool. A slight different angle so you can see things a little bit better. There's the pot with the wool strips coming out of it. And if we pull back this gourd plant and get a close-up here, you can see that where the angle of the fabric changes is where the water, based on the color of the soil, the darker color of the soil, really starts to be wicked or move from the fabric into the soil. And what I'm really pleased to see is that even all the way over here, we have moisture coming out of the fabric and into the ground. So it's just not going to water here, but it should water the full length of the fabric, which should work out great for this one over here, where I have the fabric wrapping around the plant. That's going to add a lot of beautiful moisture to this plant. Look at those tendrils. Uh-oh, I better start working on my trellis. It's going to start climbing soon. So, very cool stuff. Medieval automatic watering.